Okay. The panel will be moderated by Lisa Melton from Nature Biotech, and panelists are, Maria, that just heard speak, Paolo from VitaDAO, who's very involved in the deal flow there, and Tim Peterson, who is also involved with VitaDAO. He's like a scientist, was at WashU for many years, and also runs a company. And I'm gonna give this one to you.
Mm-hmm. Let's stand like this. Great. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here at this exciting moment of the afternoon. I guess as a news editor for Nature Biotech, I stand right at the center of centralized science. So it's a little bit of an oddity, perhaps, that I am chairing this session, and thank you, Max, for inviting me. But what happened was that Max and Morten 2 years ago told me, well, how about an article in Nature Biotech about decentralized science? And I took back the idea to the team at Nature Biotech, and we had endless discussions about it. I cannot tell you how many discussions. And in the end, I said to all of them, look, I'm a journalist. This is happening. We're reporting on it. Hence my involvement. So with that, I'd like to say I would like each of the panelists to give a little bit of a flavor of what it is that they do, a practical sort of glimpse at their involvement with VitaDAO. And then I have one question for them, and then I'll open it up to you all for Q&A. So go thinking about your questions in advance so that we have an interactive discussion. So with that, Maria, you've heard about Maria's involvement with AthenaDAO, but could you tell us perhaps a little bit in a practical way what it is that you do? Do you look at projects coming in? What's your involvement?
Sure. So for AthenaDAO, I'm working on the science and deal flow side. So what we do is we source projects for each funding round. Then we evaluate them. We create a short list of projects that we then send on to senior reviewers. They're experts in the field, in biotech, in pharma, and mostly in academia. So we get their reviews. We summarize them for the community. Each of our working members kind of ranks the projects to get a decentralized feel of how everyone is feeling around a certain project. And then after we release a token, there will be also a voting decision based on the community. And I'm also working on developing some kind of a spin-out system for AthenaDAO that can then take on the more developed assets and commercialize them.
Fantastic, thank you. Paolo.
Yeah, I have already this mine. Basically I do the same thing as Maria, but for VitaDAO. So we have a huge deal flow of opportunities coming either from academia or from startups. You can also request agreements based on a safe. And we basically flow them through a process much similar to what you just described until at some point there is a proposal which gets voted by token holder and the decision for funding is made or not. So basically I'm in the lucky position of seeing all the different opportunities coming in, and it's fantastic because there is lots of great science, amazing entrepreneurs, amazing scientists, and you get to see the full process, including sometimes incubation, to help the application reach a level which is investable or fundable, and you go to the end of it.
Great, thank you, Paolo.
And same for me as well. I think because it's a DAO, and I think Max mentioned some of the other activities, Maria and myself and others are involved in other initiatives. We started this, it's an overlay journal. It's not a journal per se, but called the Longevist, where we're helping vote on the top reprints and So we're helping, kind of top of funnel activity to kind of surface or to bring to light some of the latest research, and we're doing that on chain. So if you're interested in helping vote on, what you think are the best longevity preprints that are coming out all the time, talk to Maria or I about that. So we're doing everything from research to funding research to funding commercializable stuff. So a lot of stuff. And I'm a scientist, so I tend to focus on the science.
Great, Tim. Thank you. So here's my question to you. Say that I'm a potential investor. I want to be part of the collective. You offer me a token. Mm-hmm. What is the ultimate outcome of this? Because the parallel situation, the traditional situation, would be that eventually, if I invest in you, you IP, I have shares, I might get the ordinary commodity that we all live by. What do I get at the end of it if I decide to be an investor? Anyone?
You want to start?
Yeah, maybe I guess it depends on the type of investor.
Yeah.
Because it could be, I don't know, it could even be an institutional investor which invests primarily for financial purposes. It could also be a corporate venture capital, such as from a pharma company, and it could be an angel investor. And I would say the motives may be different for each of these three types. In particular, if you are purely doing it for financial reasons, it may be possible that the token appreciates over time. If you are doing it for strategic purposes, as it may be the case for corporate venture capital, then you get access to deal flow, to opportunities that you wouldn't otherwise see. We are in the privileged position of at the center of the longevity ecosystem, so there is not a single leaf that falls down that we don't see it. Like everything is in our sight. Of course, we do miss some news from time to time, but overall, we have a bird's eye view. So we can give deal flow. And as an angel investor, then you can get the opportunity of entering deals that you may not have. But there will be, so one point I think it's important to say is that our organization is relatively new. So we're evolving and we're introducing more and more mechanisms that add value to the token and that will enable investors to reap even more benefit from affiliation with us.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Did you want anything?
Just to add to Paolo, I think there is also a significant number of impact investors that get involved with that kind of projects just because they're really passionate about the field. And want to see more longevity research happen. And that's not to say they're not expecting any return, but...
I see.
Yeah, and then, like Apollo said, we have it's an evolving situation. We have a sidecar fund. We have this fractalization token, which Max mentioned. So there's a variety of ways for kind of purely capitalist people to the impact investors who to get involved and find the value wherever they find it. So.
Fantastic, thank you. So with that, I hope you have your questions ready. If you would, just for networking purposes, please introduce yourself, say who you are, and fire away at the panel. Who would like to start? There we go.
Hi, I'm David Meyer. I'm a PhD student in Björn Schumacher's lab, and recently dabbled a little bit with longevist and so on, but I'm quite new to the field. And I was wondering, with this IP, usually the IP goes to the university. Is there ever some conflict, or how do you deal with this, that the DAOs might also want to have a share of this IP?
So the DeSci system is quite integrated within the traditional system. So it's a good deal for both sides. We don't usually take the IP, we license the IP. So how the funding works, we talk to the researcher first, then we engage the tech transfer office. and we negotiate terms with them. We usually provide them with a standard sponsored research agreement with the option to license the IP that's produced by the project, and then we have the rights to commercialize that IP.
Great. Any other question? There we go.
Kelsey Moody, iCore Life Sciences. Just curious what you guys look at in terms of follow-on rounds. So, traditional venture capital, obviously, they will come in for initial seed rounds, perhaps, or whatever stage fits their portfolio for investment, and then typically they'll reserve funds to, follow up with those companies in the future. And I'm curious how, for your respective organizations, you're viewing that.
Yeah, so we come in relatively early, so the next step would typically be either angel or venture capital, and then once you move into I would say later stage Series A, then maybe corporate venture capital, and then the kind of traditional pipeline. But we can mean at pre-seed and seed. That answers your questions.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're so early, we haven't really been part of any follow-around rounds. And yeah, we're doing also kind of a hybrid, right, of companies and research projects, bringing them from before they're even companies. So it's kind of the verdict's still out on how we're going to approach those types of situations.
And on that, could I ask, is your focus mostly on areas that are neglected, underfunded, or do you see yourself at some point competing with areas that have traditional funding mechanisms?
Yeah, typically we like to go early, so before there's kind of validation, we'd like to provide kind of the first validation. Also, we don't have as much money as a lot of the traditional VCs, so just hopefully the part of the thought is, we have a huge community that's helping vet and due diligence these projects. So even a kind of stamp of approval from our community, even if there's no funding or kind of very modest funding, that can help get the bigger checks through the door. So I think we like to go early. We have done, like Turn Bio was a pretty big check, and they've had a decent amount of money. But there, the focus was, a lot of us feel that epigenetic reprogramming is, a hot area. The modality they're going after with the mRNA LNPs is an emerging modality. So there, we just wanted to be at the forefront of what seemed like a relatively promising approach. So again, it's a DAO, so it's community votes. So some projects are really out there, and some are kind of a little more mainstream. But ultimately, there's a community that votes to decide what path to go.
We came in before Altos, right?
We came in before. I mean, that was also part of the thing was to really say, hey, we believe in this. Just like anything, we don't know whether it will work, but just to put that stamp of approval on that project and say this is something we value. So
good call. Anyone? Okay, so there's good.
Maybe a bit more specific question. I recently saw this, what's it called, longevity review, I think also from Tim. Could you maybe explain a bit and what the vision is of this VitaDAO project? So we have in terms of publishing initiatives, we have the Longevist, which you mentioned, which is just voting on the top preprints. So it does function like a journal, just a much larger connection of kind of reviewers, right, that are voting. What you just mentioned there is called longevity review. We call it TLDR for short. The decentralized review. Anyway, you get the idea. That is a peer review service, and so the idea was to not have that to be solely affiliated with the Longevist. It was to actually be something that any journal could use as a peer review service, and it's a paid peer review service. The idea is that a lot of people lament the fact that they spend a lot of time on peer reviewing works, and no one gets compensated for that. So it's meant to be essentially a decentralized peer review service that any journal could use, and then of course the reviewers would be paid in Vita tokens, and just to help make for more quality reviews. And of course the reviews can happen post publication too, so there's no kind of barrier to doing reviews on those.
Mm-hmm. So I also see some similarities with patient associations who have very engaged people and willing to fund projects that maybe wouldn't get the typical NIH grants. What similarities or differences do you see with this sort of approach?
I already have a mic. Yeah, basically one of the reasons why I joined VitaDAO in the first place is because I believe too little funding is going to longevity research, fighting aging-related diseases. I think everyone, because is going to be impacted by this kind of disease at some point, would have an interest in putting some money, and it's not happening. So I saw VitaDAO as the first attempt to solve this problem, making sure that part of the purse and of the brain as well, because anybody can contribute to VitaDAO, goes to this cause, which is kind of neglected. And so, in a sense, it is an association of people who are really focused on solving the aging problem.
Nice.
Yeah, I think the biggest value add from those DAOs is to underfunded areas of research that have a huge community behind them. When there is a real need. So the first example was VitaDAO. It was the first DAO in that space. And then AthenaDAO, I think, is also addressing that kind of need in women's health that's been neglected for so long. And to your question, there is a big community of women with us, but it's not like a patient organization. They're not volunteers. That's the difference between that kind of organizations in Web3, that women in our community would actually have ownership of that project as well.
Fantastic. Great. Yes.
Could you talk about the process, like how it is that you find these companies or these researchers or these projects, and then how it is that you choose which ones to move forward and which ones not to?
Go for it.
Sure. So first we tap into our networks. We have a deal flow team. Everyone has a network of scientists or researchers. We reach out to them. If we don't know anyone, conferences are a great place to find new deal flow. And we also occasionally send some cold outreach and connecting with societies. For example, we reached out the Polycystic Ovarian Syndrome Society, and they connected us with a number of researchers that need funding in that space. So that's very valuable. Then our process later on, when they apply, we have someone responsible to take a quick look and ask for additional information that we might need to assess the project properly. And then for AthenaDAO, everyone from the deal flow team kind of ranks the projects to assess which are high priority, which are low priority. Then every project is assessed as shepherd. That moves the project along the process to get the senior reviews and so on, as we talked about previously.
Maybe just one thought. I think one of the great parts about DAOs in general, I think Max mentioned this about kind of the lack of groupthink. I mean, we're all coming from all over the place. So I think the benefits is that even though we're a team, we're coming from huge different backgrounds. So I think the ability to surface projects and really take things at face value and not be swayed by anyone's person's perspective. I think that's been very valuable to actually help hopefully have the kind of cream of the crop rise to the top. So
Sounds good.
Could I ask another one?
Yes? Go. Oh. We come back.
Hello, my name is Silve and I'm with Nordic Executive Medicine. Thank you for your presentation. It was really nice hearing from you guys. So you talked about this process of getting project in and funneling it down and then sending it for peer review and then finally to the community. Can you tell if you have this information, but like what is the percentage of like kind of the success rate, like how many applications do you get in, and like it all of this like round without gates, I guess, and at the end, like that kind of how does that work?
I don't have the exact number by head, but our deal flow is order of a few hundreds. Like we had a few hundreds projects proposal coming in, and then ultimately we have funded like 19, 20 projects. So that gives you an idea. But it would be interesting to have the exact figure as we move along the funnel from one step to the other. But generally speaking, like if you look at the end of the process, once a project has been reviewed by our senior reviewers and the review is overall positive, it's almost sure that it's going to pass. The token holder in general ratify the opinion of the senior reviewers and of the community. But it's not easy to get to that point.
And also, what is the average investment, average size?
Well, in this case, it's an interesting metric as well, but with TurnBio, it was 1 million. Now we're writing smaller checks and spreading a bit more our bets. It also depends on the type of deal, whether it's an academic project where we would like mostly to focus, or a company. So generally speaking, lately, companies via VHF, the foundation that Tim was referring to previously, it's order of 50 to 100K, and academic projects, it's order of 200, 250K right now.
So could I interject here and ask if it's an academic who's soliciting some money, how easy would it be for them? Probably easier to connect with you, but how about their tech transfer office? Yeah. Difficult, easy, terrible?
Maybe, so we just funded Vera Gorbanova. Maybe you could, I don't want to put you on the spot. How easy was it for your tech transfer office? So work related to her, she had a really nice recent article in Nature, and so we're kind of building off that.
Well, I really enjoy working with you guys, and it's been a very fun experience. And as to this question, I think it was very straightforward when we reached that stage that the tech transfer office had to be engaged. So then a lawyer from VitaDAO connected to them, and that was painless as far as I wasn't even involved very much. They just negotiated and reached agreement.
Sounds blissful.
and I think, I mean, a lot of, maybe the one thing for academics, so I'm an academic, so hopefully this won't be seen too much of a criticism, but, you know, often, right, a lot of the work to commercialize, to make the drug actually won't be from within the university. So yes, there can be things where the university, you know, we're kind of building on some background IP, but in a lot of cases, you know, the IP would be generated, you know, beyond what was previously done at the university, so.
Sounds good. Yeah.
So, okay, you guys are a decentralized society organization. How do you think that your credibility compares to traditional institutions? And do you, like, at some point, do you hope to have as much? Or how do you expect to see that changing in the future?
I can tell you, and I'll go real quick on this, that some people are asking, basically applying to fund, for our funding, not much because of the amount of money, but because of the credibility that we bring to them via our process. So I would say that currently the credibility is high, from what I hear. Let's see in the future.
Sounds good. So with that, I'd like to thank you for your excellent questions. And if it's all about connecting, this is the place to do it. So let's enjoy connecting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lisa, and thank you to the panelists.
Thank you.